Welcome in, everybody. It's episode 26 of the Christopher Renne Show, brought to you by the Mom's Basement Production Company. Mom's Basement Prod. Man, what a week. What a wild weekend. Everything that happened was absurd in my life. Not really as much so in the sports world. To start my wild ride of a weekend, it all started with my Portuguese oral exam being on Thursday. Now, if you know me, you know I don't know that much Portuguese. I can read it, I can see it, but I can't speak it. So when I heard oral exam, I freaked out and said, you know what, I got to speak in another language Thursday morning. And I studied for it Wednesday. And surprisingly, it wasn't that painful. 15 minutes in another language goes by pretty fast because most of the time you're thinking. Eu assistimos esportes. I watched sports this weekend. Oh, no. Eu assistimos esportes na semana. I watched sports on this weekend. So, that's cool. So after that, I was like, you know what? It's Thursday. I got a class Friday morning, but if I go out early, it'll be fun. And then my friends are like, yo, let's go do this trivia thing. So I went to the Thirsty Scholar, cool bar on campus. Trivia night was insanely fun. We did so well. We won the thing. We won $30 gift certificate to the Thirsty Scholar. Scholar dollars, baby. Coming down to it, it was a great team effort. There was 5 of us, 6 of us. I don't know. The numbers rotated. We had to buy mugs, so we were doing mug night there. It was awesome. It was absurd, and it went by. It took forever to do the whole trivia, but it was so worth it in the end. So, me, 4 other friends, we go, and we're like, all right, whatever happens, happens. We go through the first 10 questions. We haven't missed one yet. We're like, what? All right. So the guy running it, the in-law of one of my friends, his name's Zach. I don't know the guy running its name, but shout out to that trivia company. I wish I had their name to name drop them here. He's going through the leaderboard, and we're like, hey, it didn't set our name yet. And then we're like, oh, we're in first. Booyah. So we were in first after 10. Then we started missing some of the songs. So the way they did it was they'd have the question, and then you'd have the amount of time of the song to answer it. So every time you answer the question would be worth a certain amount of points. Well, the song was a bonus point for every question. So we were nailing all the songs up to that point. And we started missing a couple songs, but we kept getting the questions right. And then my friend Nick's girlfriend, Celine, made an exceptional. There was a pasta question, and I still don't remember the answer, but I would have never got it, and we would have possibly figured it out. But she I knew it. So all parties helped. All parties took a part. The last 4, we went all in pretty much. Said, you know what? If we're gonna win this, we're gonna win this. So you had to get 3 out of 4 questions right to double your points, or to get your investment back. So you'd have to wager points like Final Jeopardy, and if you won, you got those points back, plus the points you already had. If you got it wrong, you lost all the points, and you pretty much lost. And then if you got all 4 right, you got plus 25. Well, we got 3 out of the 4 right. I can't remember the first question. Oh, it was, what was Senator John McCain's military branch or something like that, Navy. Easy. Cuban senator, born in Florida, governor, something else. Not Ted Cruz, my bad. Marco Rubio. Boom, done, easy. 1790, before 1790, and the Declaration of Independence. What was the article the states used for their federal ruling and law? And that was the Articles of Confederations. Your boy came up with that one. We got it. The 4th one we got wrong. Can't remember the question. Doesn't matter. We won trivia. Whew, man. So, Friday. Oh, no. And then I went to Double Wells. Drank like 4 of them. Disgusting. Woke up with a migraine. Went to class Friday, so that was a win. If you don't know what double wells are, it's when there's 2 shots in the alcohol in the mixed drink, not 1, and they use the cheapest of whiskey to make it $1.50, and it's unbelievable. Great night, but terrible mornings. So then Friday night, I was like, I'm not doing anything really. We got a beer Olympics Saturday. Get to my house, me and like 5 guys start drinking some beers, and we start throwing on country music. Then some women come. It's all cool and stuff. There's 3 girls, but we'll say some women. And yeah, it was a good night. Threw a country party. I threw it, and so did my friends, but I threw it. So then Saturday rolls around. Ohio State, they've been struggling recently. 9-1, they're struggling. They go into East Lansing. It's like 28 degrees. It had just snowed the night before. Cold as balls, 20-mile-an-hour wind, but I guess the offense needs to be explosive in extremely hard conditions for an offense to be explosive. Ohio State had some good takeaways. We'll talk about it in the college football, but they got the dub. 9-1. Playoff destiny in our hands. It sucks no one else lost, but we're still rolling. I partook in a beer Olympics. My team got 3rd. It was all right. We played blackout for 3rd place. I won 3rd place. It was unbelievable. Got some shot glasses. My team did well. My team blew it during beer pong. It's why we weren't in contention for the final gold or silver medal. But, next year, I know what game I have to work on. This year I worked on the chugging events a little too much. It's all good, though. My team dominated the boat race. And if you haven't watched Beer Fest or started a party off with one of these, you need to. So you get teams of 4, and each person has 2 full beers. Okay? You hear me, right? You got 2 full beers. All right, so you go, first guy drinks his beer, tips it over his head, make sure it's empty. Second guy drinks his beer, tips it over his head, make sure it's empty. Third guy drinks his beer, tips it over his head, makes sure it's empty. Fourth guy tips the beer over his head, makes sure it's empty. But guess what the 4th guy has to do? He has to drink 2. He's the anchor. Oh my God, 2 beers consecutively, back to back. Yeah, so that happened, and then guess what? The 3rd person has to drink again. He has to drink a 2nd beer, then the 2nd person, then the 1st person. So I was I let us off. And then it went Hamza, Chewy, Jaws, Chewy, Hamza, me. So my boy Hamza, he was the rookie of the Beer Olympics. This is his first one. And he threw up in the cup and finished it. And it was one of the most impressive things I've ever heard. What a guy. Mad respect. Shout out to Hamza. Or Hazmat, as some of us know him. So our team won that. We had a 48.5 second time or 49.5 second time. We did it impressively fast. We beat the next closest team by like 20 seconds. Didn't help in the grand scheme of things, but regardless, it was awesome. If you saw my Snapchat, we had the greatest entrance of all time. During the opening ceremonies, our team got a run out to The Time Is Now by John Cena, and it was awesome. And then Sunday, I just enjoyed the Browns win and ate some wings to recover. And it was a great weekend. Whew. Oh, man, what a weekend. What a week. I told you it was a lot. I told you it was a lot. Okay, so let's get into it. College football. Another weekend, not much changed. I think it goes Bama, decent-sized margin of space. Clemson, decent-sized margin of space. Notre Dame, Michigan, not a very wide margin of space between 3. I don't think there's much space between 3 and 10. I mean, if I'm being honest, this is going to be the toughest year for the playoffs because only 2 teams for sure have to play each other in the top 10. And then West Virginia and Oklahoma are going to have to play each other again. So 3 teams in the top 10 are going to lose, and you're going to have 5 choices amongst, that's how, I think that's how, you're going to have 5 or 6 choices for 4 spots. Well, 4 choices for 2 spots. We'll put it that way. Unless Clemson loses, then we're in a whole different area. But Clemson has a weak resume, and I'm not talking about Clemson this week because they just keep doing what they're doing. All right, so my favorite game of the week, I didn't fully watch, but I watched a re-showing of it on Fox Sports 1. Oklahoma State. My biggest takeaway was Mike Gundy wanted to be Dana Holgorsen so bad. You guys remember last week when West Virginia played Texas, and Dana Holgorsen made a call, and he said, hey, you boys want to go win this game? He said, let's go win this game. So they went for 2. He called a quarterback draw. Will Greer ran straight. Everyone dove in. Will Greer bounced it. The offensive lineman set the edge. He got around it. And then he held the ball out, flipped it up, scored the touchdown. It was unbelievable. It was great. Tom Herman was extremely salty after. I thought pre-celebrating a touchdown would take away a touchdown. Oh, yeah, Tom Herman. Well, guess what? You're 8-3. You've lost 3 games again. Congratulations. You're good at coaching, not. I love Mike Gundy, and when your team is struggling throughout the year and you're in a game with your rival on the road, you do have to make that decision. A lot of people are like, but if you kick the field goal, you give your team another chance to win. In Norman, Oklahoma, that's not going to happen. Oklahoma would have ended up winning that game in overtime. I can guarantee it. The only series between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State that's close, I mean, Oklahoma owns the basketball series. The wrestling program for Oklahoma State absolutely dominates this, but that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of college universities unless you have a good wrestling school. Yeah, so 48-47. Why did they go for it? Why was that? Because, so to give some background as a coach, at home you have your student section, you have your fans, you have the comfort of your stadium just around you. When you're on the road, taking that last chance to win it, if you do make it, you're guaranteed to win pretty much. If you go to overtime, you're probably still going to lose just due to the home field advantage. Now, don't get me wrong, taking the chance probably could have been a smart move, but at the end of the day, I think Gundy made the right decision. You bet on your players, you make them believe in you, so next year when they're a more experienced team, you know your coach has your back. And I think that was the right move. It's unfortunate for teams behind Oklahoma because if they did not go for it, they could have probably still could have won the game, but I'm with Mike Gundy on that move. Oklahoma's offense unbelievable, but their weakness showed again. Their defense is horrendous, and against any offense, it's going to be great. And I said offensively they could score with Bama, which is true, but I think with how good Bama's defense is, they're going to get stops, they're going to force turnovers, and I think Oklahoma's outmatched physically, not only on the defensive end, but also on the offensive end, and I think that matchup, if Oklahoma's the 4, is going to be a tough one. So being that it wasn't a busy season, I'm going to talk about Ohio State real quick because a lot of people seem to be up in arms about how they played the whole first half. I don't think a lot of people understand, but East Lansing is a pretty hostile road environment, especially once you get into the month of November. I'm not sure how many people listening to this have been to the state of Michigan, but it gets cold. It has a lake effect, much like Ohio. It gets windy. It gets snowy. It gets snowy early. So when a team struggles against a team in that type of environment, it's, number one, the home field advantage. So in that first half, Michigan State was leaving it all on the line. Secondly, Michigan State's defense was unbelievable. They were the number 1 rush defense in the country. Ohio State gashed them all game long. That was the best performance from the offensive line I've seen from a run game standpoint in a while. Pass game was there. There's still too many drops, I'd say, in big moments. I mean, you can see Haskins putting some balls on receivers into double coverage that are just absurd that the receivers don't come up with. And that's a struggle. That's something that needs to be cleaned up a little bit because those are the plays you have to make to win a championship. Ohio State, just run game against them, that was the best performance anyone's had on them all year. And they ran it up and down them all day. It was just such a big battle of field position. The punter was the player of the game, Drew Chrisman. He had 5 punts inside the 10-yard line. If you know anything about punting and punt coverage, that stat is absurd. There's nothing like it. Hey, Drew Chrisman no doubt deserved the player of the week. They got a safety. It was crazy. And then they punted. Then the Ohio State started dominating the game. That happened. I had to miss like 20 minutes of the game because I had to do another Portuguese assignment. Freaking hated that class. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a windy game. Ohio State did exactly what I expected. I thought the game was going to be close for a little bit, then I thought they were going to dominate in the end. It's tough watching the game with Ohio State fans because you get stressed out over every little thing. And the game of football, especially in college and high school, is a game of up and downs. You can't really always control what happens. And once you realize that you have no control over the game, you just kind of got to let go and watch it subjectively and not objectively, see what's going on. I always watch Ohio State with a fan interest, obviously, but I like to keep my head screwed on. I don't like to stress out about the game. I like to get excited when they do something well, but when something bad happens, I know the roster itself is good enough to make up for the mistakes, and once the coaching figures out how to utilize this roster better, it'll be they gave up 6 points. They dominated field position. They ran all over a really good defense, and at times the passing game looked very refined and good. Now, Maryland's going to be a perfect time to clean it up, and I think Ohio State will beat the University of Michigan ugly, and they'll probably win the Big Ten championship, but it's not going to be easy. I think the game against Michigan will be a pseudo-conference championship. Oh, last take on college football, Jesus Christ. So, Alabama, them boys good. They're really good. I saw a tweet get retweeted about Jordan Judy, or Jerry Judy. He's a receiver for him. He's his number one target. That guy's an absolutely filthy animal, man. He has snatched so many bodies and so many ankles. I'm starting to feel bad for opposing people who have to play him. And Ohio State's weakness being its ability to play the ball in the secondary. I'm really scared of Judy. I'm more scared of him than Tua. I'm more scared of him than Alabama's defense. Just from a matchup standpoint, our weakness is his strength, and that's burning people. So we'll see how that goes. The rest of the top 25 did well. I'm not really all that excited to talk about any of the other games because they weren't really close. Notre Dame bullied Florida State. LSU barely beat Arkansas, but that was a boring game. LSU had it in control the whole time, but all that good stuff. I'll go through the scores real quick. Do a quick takeaway on the games. West Virginia had a hell of an offensive game and defensive game, to be honest. South Carolina, I thought, was going to pull out the win against Florida. Florida ended up coming back. UCF beat Navy by 11 points. That was pretty straightforward for them. Navy tried giving them a little run late, but it was never going to happen. Penn State beat Wisconsin. Those two teams have been really big disappointments, probably not only to themselves, but the rest of the country and all the panelists that picked them. Ohio State probably, I think, had the best win of the top 25 just due to the team they played. Iowa State had a big win. Iowa State's ranked. Good for Matt Campbell. Got the boys bouncing. Washington State keeps getting better. They went into Colorado and took care of business. Handled them. Michigan did exactly what you'd expect anyone to do to Rutgers. I thought they should have scored more, to be honest. I thought Rutgers played a really good first quarter and first half, but then Michigan's talent was just that much better. Iowa lost. Northwestern Iowa. I mean, the Big Ten West has kind of been in dismay this year. Georgia beat Auburn. Auburn's not very good. I don't know how Auburn's a ranked team. They haven't proven any reason to be ranked. They haven't beat anybody. Their talent hasn't shown, and I'm kind of annoyed by it. Tennessee blew out Kentucky, so Kentucky's done. Kentucky was probably done last week, but I mean, there's a good chance they finish 7-5 now, which sucks because they're having such a great year. Yeah, Alabama 24-0. Yeah, it happened. They're good. Clemson 27-7, Boston College. I think everyone sort of knew that was coming as well. Texas beat Texas Tech. Oh my God, Tom Herman, what a huge win! Good for you, Lubbock, Texas. You're going 8-4. Dick. Syracuse's offense is explosive, but their defense can't really hang with top tier offenses. I'll say that. Now, am I talking about Fresno State? Boise State has now replaced them as my favorite Power 5 team, and I want them to play and beat UCF. I think Boise State can do it. I was honestly waiting for the result of this game to make any declarations, and I'm excited Boise State won it. Shout out to my boy Blake Whitlock on it. Shout out to Nick Crabtree. Those are two guys I played with, and they're both on Boise State. Blake's in his last ride. Crabtree is still a youngin'. Wake Forest beat NC State. So, yeah, I guess what I'm kind of seeing is the parity is great. You don't really know what conference is actually good because a lot of teams are underperforming their expectations. The fact Mississippi State was a 16th ranked team last week with 3 losses. Auburn was ranked with 3 losses. It's absurd. I don't think anyone besides Bama and Georgia in the SEC have any good. I was rooting for Kentucky a lot this year, but you're seeing their true colors. They can't throw the ball. The Big Ten West has been disastrous. Like same thought. I was 6-4. There's got to be someone else out there who can be ranked. And you get to the top. Washington State's been in this position before. They were in this position last year, and they lost 2 of their last 3 games. I'm rooting for Washington State. I've got a friend that plays there too. Carson Block was one of the best linebackers I've ever seen play. He's playing as more of an edge rusher and outside linebacker now, but he's still playing. It's awesome. I'm rooting for Washington State for sure, and I hope. I think Oklahoma's good, but they have their weak. I think everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. I think West Virginia is one of the more complete teams, but I don't think they have the talent to do it. You know. I think you just go through them. Alabama's complete in every way. They even have a quarterback now. It's scary. Oklahoma, great offense, terrible defense. Ohio State, inconsistent. Very inconsistent. Whether it's offense or defense or special teams, they have something wrong with them each week. Michigan, inconsistent passing game and inconsistent offense. Now, against Rutgers, yeah, it looked great. But with how Rutgers has been playing of late, it probably should have been worse. Let's go through Georgia. Not that explosive on offense, but extremely talented. Notre Dame's pretty well rounded, but I don't think they have the speed or talent to compete with Alabama in the end. Clemson's the closest thing to complete, but inexperience at quarterback is going to be their difference. I think Etienne's great. I think the receivers are awesome. Their defensive front seven's unbelievable. But yeah, nothing special. LSU's not that good. They shouldn't be a top 10 team. I think that's going to keep getting proven, and I think next week, depending on who they play an FCS school next week, so that won't matter. But I think that game against Texas A&M at Texas A&M will be their downfall.
Kate has had a rough life.
Oh.
The first time she sat on Santa's lap, he cried. Her waxer uses her after pictures as before pictures. It turns out it was her fault.
I don't know what's doing the ad. All right, here we go. All right, I got rid of it. That was extremely unprofessional of me, and I'm sorry. I didn't have my ad blocker on. Ugh. This is dumb. All right. Well, anyways, yeah, and it's all going to get figured out. It always does. It's going to be just like last year, and I think people are going to be like, do you need an 18 playoff? And next week on my show, depending on how the games turn out, I will do a show on why the 18 playoff is good and why it's bad. Pros and cons of the 18 playoff. All right, ad time, but not from like computers. FreightSaver.com for all your shipping needs. If you need less than truckload, full truckload, expedited shipping, go to FreightSaver.com and get a quote today. It's Mom's Basement Productions. All right, I'm back. I never left. I was doing the voices during the advertisement. The NFL was more interesting this weekend than college football. I think for the most part, the NFL has been more interesting so far this year. I think there's been a lot more parity. I think there's been a lot more fun stories. I think the Browns' turnaround's been interesting. I think the Patriots' hate and then proving the haters wrong once again is interesting. I think the way the Saints are explosive on offense is interesting. I think the new young offensive coaches taking over the league is interesting. It's been a lot of fun. This week, I was wrong mostly about one thing, and it was the Patriots. I thought they were going to beat the Titans handedly. I think partially it was due to the Titans being a hot team. I think Marcus Mariota is playing his best football since becoming a professional. I think the Patriots' injuries to Gronk, their running backs, and Julian Edelman getting nicked up in the game sort of all played a part in it. They did hit a freight train. Corey Davis is hard to stop. He abused the Patriots' secondary, which is sort of a weakness of theirs. When the Patriots don't win by scheme, they're not going to win by talent defensively, so that's a big part of it. Interesting anecdote, Belichick's 0-2 against assistants this year. I think it's funny when you look at it that way because Nick Saban's never lost to an assistant while he's been at Bama. He's only lost to assistants, I think, twice in his whole career. I don't know why it's different in the NFL. I don't know if Bill Belichick's just giving his former assistants a give-me-win, Mike Vrabel coached a hell of a game, had a hell of a game plan, and stopped him, I think my favorite thing that came from that was the interview post-game when Bill Belichick ran the trick play to Tom and he caught it and tripped. And then Vrabel's like, I just wanted to see if we could run it better than them, and also called the same type of play to Marcus Mariota, who is a better athlete than Tom Brady. Not a better quarterback, but better athlete, I'd say so. My second takeaway, and I'm not wrong because I do think the Rams are still a Super Bowl contender, but they have some things to fix, and I'm going to address those now. Marcus Peters has been abused week in and week out the last 3 weeks since he came back. Their defensive secondary is horrendous right now. Their defense isn't great. If they don't get a pass rush from Aaron Donald, Dexter Fowler, or Dante Fowler, and their very good defensive line, it's going to be trouble. Because as you saw with the Saints, as you saw with Russell Wilson this week, if you play a good offense, it's going to tear you apart. The Rams are a great team. I think their offensive personnel is just as good as anybody else's in the league. Losing Cooper Kupp's tough, but their secondary scares me long term. All right, now there's three topics I want to talk about in the NFL, and then I'm moving on to the NBA for the first time. It's unbelievable. But before I talk about these three topics, follow me on Twitter, man, at Chris_Renne, and then follow the company on Twitter at nbsp. Need the followers. There are hubs so you can see all things Mom's Basement Productions and Pints at the Round Table. Listen to Pints, listen to this, give some reviews and rate them. Hopefully you enjoy the shows. If not, tell us what we need to work on. And don't tell me I need to work on sound. I already know that. I'm not a sound guy. I'm a guy who started a podcast and bought a microphone. Not a sound guy. All right, so this has been... I'm trying to decide which one I want to start with because one of them is going to be polarizing. One of them is going to be pretty factually evident. And the other one's just because I want to talk about them. We'll go the factually evident one first. I think it'll be the quickest. All right, so this weekend, one team continued what they've done the last couple weeks, and for the most part of the season, for the season, the most part, that was the Saints. Have you guys seen the New Orleans Saints play football on the offensive side? Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Mark Ingram, Michael Thomas like 6, 7 more times. Then they give it to Kamara, and then guess what? Mark Ingram's there. Drew Brees is delivering. The offensive line's awesome. Now, they don't have any receiver depth. They did when they had Ted Ginn. They did when they had the other guy who got injured. But now they're down to 3 receivers. Now that's why they brought in Dez. That offensive line's unbelievable. That offensive line's exceptional. It gives Drew Brees time, and when Drew Brees has time, it's like he's playing in a passing league back there. It's 7-on-7 for him. And you give Drew Brees 3.5, 4 seconds to find Michael Thomas, who has 3.5 or 4 seconds. You bet Michael Thomas is going to be open in 3.5 to 4 seconds. Or think about this. He's just going to check it down. And, first down, let's hand it off. Let's throw a screen. Their offensive play calling, Sean Payton has done such a phenomenal job of mixing it up, getting weapons in space, creating matchup problems for defenses. And that's what great offensive coaches do. I mean, you see it. You see it. You see it. That's what I talked about when I was saying things are interesting. The invigoration of all these offenses comes from young offensive minds. And Sean Payton's not a young guy, but he's adapted to the modern NFL offense, and it's a pleasure to watch. And Drew Brees, of all the old quarterbacks, is the perfect guy for it. Just enough arm strength to make every throw. Extremely accurate with the ball. And that's why I have hope with Baker Mayfield as a Browns quarterback. But that'll be the topic for soon to come. And then, they signed Dez Bryant, who probably would have been an awesome pickup if he didn't blow out his Achilles. And it sucks because Dez Bryant was probably a little heavy and a little overweight and not ready to get into game speed. But they needed him that bad, and they needed to push him to it. Now they signed Brandon Marshall, who's a very similar player to Dez Bryant, a little more inconsistent throughout his career. But at the end of the day, he's still a very big target and a guy you could work in slot and be a really good possession receiver on third down if he is in shape and healthy. Which I think Brandon Marshall will probably be in a little bit more game shape than Dez Bryant was because Brandon Marshall was on the Seattle Seahawks to begin the year. Brandon Marshall, well, he was one of my favorite receivers when he played with Smokin' Jay in Chicago, and I liked him when he went to the Giants. I thought that move was going to be better, but it wasn't. That's their only weakness. That is their only weakness is receiver depth. They made a trade. They needed a corner. They made a trade for Eli Apple. The dude made a pick last week. He's been awesome. I think it shows the environment the Giants are in that you could get a corner who is struggling and use them. And it just shows. And I think that was one of the biggest things people were talking about when Dez signed. Is he going to mess up the culture in New Orleans? Not a chance. It's crazy how unselfish Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara are when they could both get the ball 25, 30 times a game if they were somewhere else because they're both that talented at running backs. Michael Thomas wanted another receiver. You know how much that would help him if he had another receiver? Now he's got one and he's got half of one. And old Brandon Marshall. That'll probably help him. I'm pretty sure I saw a stat and it was Michael Thomas had 60% of the catches for New Orleans receivers, and that's absurd. The defense has been awesome for the Saints. I think the Saints are moving closer and closer to being my favorite to win the Super Bowl. And that's, like I said last week, if they have home field advantage, I think they're my Super Bowl pick. If they have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, I think Drew Brees will get his second ring. And that'll be how I finish that segment up. I think they're so talented. I think they filled in one of their weaknesses on defense by adding another corner. Their safeties are good with Williams and Coleman. Experience there. Von Bell's a good athletic safety for situational stuff. Marshawn Lattimore is one of the best man-to-man corners in the league. He could follow a number one receiver, and that takes a lot of responsibility away from Eli Apple, who struggled with a lot of responsibility in New York. Their linebackers, couldn't name one, play awesome. They get a great pass rush. Their defensive line is deep. They have 7 or 8 players who play, and it's fun to watch. And I really do think, from a coaching standpoint, Sean Payton and his staff are having one of the best years from any coaches ever, because they lose someone, they replace it in game planning. They don't replace him as a player, but they replace him in the game planning. One drive they'll beat you with Kamara. One drive they'll beat you with Mark Ingram. One drive Michael Thomas will house it. There's not really one way to stop the Saints, and if you try to take away one thing, they'll just use another, and that's just something only 2 or 3 other teams in the league can say. Which leads me into my next segment. The Los Angeles Chargers, they've won 7 straight games. They're looking good. Much like the Saints. The Saints flew under the radar a little less due to the explosiveness of Alvin Kamara. But in the same light, Melvin Gordon's been the second best running back in the league behind Todd Gurley, and if he didn't miss 2 games, his stats would be absolutely absurd. Phillip Rivers has thrown for multiple touchdown passes in every single game so far, and I've watched it live. I saw them tear apart the Browns. This offense was disgustingly deep. Let's see. I'm going to go through 5 of their players that Phillip Rivers can utilize as weapons. Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams. Mike Williams has been picking it up a lot. Since his shoulder surgery, he's gotten healthy. He's gotten in shape, and now he's looking like a real receiver. They got a guy in the slot. Can't remember his name. Speedster, though. Awesome. Austin Eckler. Melvin Gordon. Those 2 guys have been killing it fantasy. One week, they both had 30 points. I can't make that up. That's the type of offensive efficiency they've had. The Saints are just getting better. The Chargers are just getting better is what I meant to say. The Chargers are getting so good. Their defense has getting a pass rush with Melvin Ingram. Their linebackers, Derwin James has changed that secondary altogether. They had been missing that piece that Eric Weddle was when he lost. Derwin James has filled it in. Derwin James is big. He's physical. And if it wasn't for my bias towards Denzel Ward, he'd be the Rookie of the Year in the AFC and the NFL. All in all, the Chargers are one of those teams that are so explosive offensively. They have Casey Hayward, Desmond King, Trevor Williams. Derwin James has changed the outlook of it all together. Pro Football Focus has Casey Hayward ranked as the best cover corner in the league. Derwin James has the highest player rating for any rookie person in the secondary. And then Desmond King's been awesome. You just look at the Bolts, and they're playing electric. It's been super exciting to watch. I really can't get over how good they've gotten, and their offensive line has reinvented himself. Okung's been awesome. Dan Freeney. Mike Pouncey was a huge pickup as a center. He brought in... Because centers on the offensive line are the glue. And for the most talented guys are usually on the outside. But at center, you need a guy who can bring the line together, make the calls, Phillip Rivers has been so underappreciated for so long, and I'm tired of it. I am tired of it. His stats are awesome. I think he's had a better career than Eli Manning if he has a Super Bowl. I think this is his second to last chance to do it. I think next year will be his last chance to win a Super Bowl. But I think he can do it. I could really see a Saints-Chargers Super Bowl, and I wouldn't know who to root for because I like both these teams so much this year. If one of these two gets there and the other doesn't, well, I know which one I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for one of these two teams to win the Super Bowl. They're very similar in personnel. They're very similar defensively. They're the same teams. One's just in the AFC West, one's in the AFC South. Two old veteran quarterbacks that keep getting better with age. Keep loving the modern NFL offenses that keep coming about. Keep loving the new rule changes. You know how many shots? Dude, Tyrell Williams against the Browns had 3 catches for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was hilarious. I think the Chargers are good, but I'm not going to pick them to make it to the Super Bowl. I'm picking the Patriots still, even after this week. I think the Chargers and Chiefs are pretty similar. I think Pat Mahomes, as a rookie, once he has to go somewhere cold in November, if the Chiefs don't have home field, I think the Super Bowl matchups are going to be highly based on who has home field and who doesn't. I think the AFC is pretty much set. 5 spots deep, correct? I think the Steelers are going to win the North. The Chiefs and Chargers are going to make the playoffs. Can't predict a division winner this early. The Patriots in the East, and then whoever. I guess the South. I guess, right? Yeah. So that's 5 deep already decided. The winner of the South is undecided, but the playoffs are 5 deep, and I could predict 5 straight minus the South. So I predict 4 teams that are going to be there, but not the winner of the South. Let's put it that way. Last NFL topic, then the NBA, then my fan topic, then the conclusion. All right, so Freddie Kitchen, the Cleveland Browns' new offensive coordinator, has changed the way the Browns have looked. Once again, the modernization of the NFL. Some coaches have caught up, some coaches haven't. Sorry, Huey. Freddie fucking Kitchen. The offense has been so much better the last 2 games. The creativity's been absurd. They used some wildcat stuff. They ran a triple option where Baker Mayfield handed the ball to Duke Johnson, who then fake pitched it and then cut up field and gained like 6 yards. It was a great 6-yard play. It was creative as hell. They used the wishbone. They used the full house formation. I haven't seen the full house formation since like Madden 07. There's motion and movement. It's been awesome. Mayfield went like 21 for 23 or something like that. I think he threw 20 times, but he completed like 85% of his throws. The receivers looked awesome. They found matchups and utilized them. And the tight end play from Njoku, he came up with some big 3rd down catches. Nick Chubb has been a joy to watch since he became the starting running back for the Browns. I do think he needed that time to grow behind a player and get minimal game reps just to get a feel of the pace. But once he did, you could see the explosiveness and moving hide was then necessary because Duke Johnson and Nick Chubb are both more talented than Carlos Hyde. I think the experience in the room, I think Freddie Kitchen, knowing the running back personnel extremely well, helped him with the offensive play calling. I think the creativity was evident against the Chiefs, but the Browns aren't mature enough or talented enough yet to beat the Chiefs. I think coming off a bye week, so the Browns do not play this Sunday, and I'm going to the next game the Browns play at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati. And it's going to be fun. And I'm excited for it. I wasn't excited for this like 5 months or like 2 months ago when I bought the ticket, but I'm excited for it now. I'll say Greg has the boys bouncing on the defensive side. The defense has been the strongest point for the Browns this year. It's been exceptionally fun to watch. They had 7 consecutive plays from the 1 yard line on back-to-back drives. So for the first drive, and they stopped them. 4th down, they made them throw it. They didn't throw it. The third, and on 4th down, the Falcons threw up a prayer. Austin Hooper caught it. Shout out to Austin Hooper for fantasy. It actually worked out perfectly for me. The Browns still won. Julio scored a touchdown. Austin Hooper scored. So I got the fantasy points too. Exceptional. But I think the way Greg has allowed Freddie Kitchen to let the playbook fly and challenge Baker Mayfield in that aspect helped the Browns so much from a play calling standpoint. I think the beef between Todd Haley and Hugh Jackson was why the offense was so bad and so predictable. I think bringing in Todd Haley was career suicide for Hugh, and I think Hugh already got hired back to the Bengals. I don't think it's going to help the Bengals beat the Browns because I think the Browns are a better team right now than the Bengals, and that's completely biased. Chubb is for real, and the better Chubb gets faster, the better Baker's going to get faster. A real run game is exactly what a rookie quarterback needs. When you could get 4 or 5 yards on first down and get to 2nd and 5, it makes it so much easier for a quarterback. The penalties are down. Makes it easier on a rookie quarterback. So the 2 things that have helped Baker the most the last 2 weeks have been the better run game and the lack of penalties. So not shooting yourself in the foot. Now, we had like 2 or 3 penalties in a row, but they were only half the distance to the goal, and they were trying to get a jump off sides. They false started. The Browns false started, but that's because they were hard counting, and it was probably good we false started. And then the defense probably got a little lackadaisical, and Baker threw a 15-yard out route, and the drive started. I'm excited, and this is the most excited I've been to be a Browns fan in years. So there's that. All right, I'm just gonna hit on one topic, and I saw it on Twitter, and I'm not gonna talk about it very long because I'm sort of running out of time to record. But Carmelo Anthony is looking like he's gonna get cut and waived. So on Twitter, Steven Jackson said they're blackballing you, boy. You need to fight this and fight the league on this. It's what they did to AI, and it's what they did to me. Well, number one, I'm going to address Steven Jackson as a player first. Steven Jackson was a grinder, and Steven Jackson was not very good at the end of his career, and that's the reason he fell out of the league. Now I'm going to address Allen Iverson. Now, Allen Iverson was the street culture in the NBA. He brought it to it. He gave players the right to be expressive, and he made them wear a dress code. Well, now that dress code's a little gone, and that's because of Allen Iverson. High fashion's big in the NBA. It used to be hood fashion, now it's high fashion. Yeah, I mean, AI at the end was the same player he was when he came into the league. Ferocious, extremely competitive, but a ball hog. Now in Philadelphia, when he was at his max level of talent, yeah, that was okay. Because he could score 33 a night and absolutely ball. But at the end of his career, he didn't change his game, and that's why he fell out of the league. Was he still able to get buckets? Yeah. But not every night, and he had to rest a lot of games because he was injured and banged up a lot. So, Carmelo, he's done. I don't want to hear it. He had his chance for 2 years to be a role player. He said no. He shot terribly from 3. He shot terribly from the field. He took a lot of horrendous shots, and his true shooting percentage is reflected that. Everyone's like, could he still be a guy who comes off the bench, give you 10 a night? Yeah, but he's not willing to play 8 minutes. He still thinks he's a star, and that's a thing. It's no crime that he's washed up in year 15. A lot of players didn't even make it to year 15. I saw Colin Cowherd talking about it. He went through the list. He's like, Magic, Larry didn't make it to year 15. Those are the two main ones I remember. And some AI didn't. A lot. Grant Hill, I don't think, did. A lot of great, talented offensive basketball players can play a long time. Vince Carter's the exception, not the rule. LeBron James is the exception, not the rule. Michael Jordan didn't make it to a year 15. I don't want to hear it. He's not blackballed. He's terrible. Watch the tape. He can't function as a role player anymore. He's a selfish player. Too much of an ego. Not enough will to win. He just wants to be mellow. He wants to be the guy who gets the ball. He wants to be the face of the team. I saw someone say, can he go somewhere for veteran leadership? No, because that's what the Thunder brought him in for. He was a terrible veteran leader. That's what the Rockets brought him in for. Terrible veteran leader. There's a reason he's done. And don't get me wrong. If he played 15 minutes a night, he'd probably still get you 10. 10 and 3 a night in 15 minutes. I think he could. But he's not willing to do it. Because he has too much of an ego. And that's why he can't function as a role player. He thinks he's Carmelo Anthony from 2007. When he's Carmelo Anthony from 2018. 2007 was 11 years ago, Melo. It's time to start looking in the mirror and self-reflecting. You're washed up, and I don't want to hear anything about him being blackballed. I don't want to hear anything about Allen Iverson being blackballed, and I don't want to hear about Steven Jackson being blackballed. Number one, Steven Jackson, I didn't know who you were until you were on TV, and that's because I'm a little younger. Number two, he's just not that good. He's not. I could argue after like 2009, he wasn't that good anymore. I don't know. Whenever Amari Stoudemire came to the Knicks, that was the beginning to the end. And that's it. I was going to talk about the Lakers figuring out Tyson Chandler was a huge move. It was awesome. The Warriors have lost 2 straight without Steph Curry, so I think that shows who the real MVP on the Warriors is. Steph Curry's the glue that holds them together. Draymond Green and Kevin Durant got in a fight on the sideline during a timeout. It was awesome. I love seeing it. You love seeing the top team implode without their true leader there. The Eastern Conference is wide open. The Bucks are off to a hot start. The Celtics are still probably the most deep team in the East, but they're working through some kinks. Fultz sucks. Simmons and Embiid don't like each other, and you're adding Jimmy Butler to that. Can't wait to see the dumpster fire. Alrighty, so this is my last topic of the day. Fan topic. So I didn't get as many comments as I did last week, so there wasn't as much to choose from. But the comment I did get is actually a pretty awesome comment. It's from Robbie Borders, a kid I went to middle school with. And he said mental health in sports was a topic he wanted to hear about. So I'm going to start off first with why mental health has never been seen in sports until recently. So athletes in all sports, in movies, and pop culture have always had a stigma. Athletes and men alike are always expected to be the tough guy, to lack emotion, to hold in their emotions, to not reveal their emotions. And that could really weigh a person down. And that comes from upbringing, that comes from a lot of things, and that comes from a lot of effects of society and the culture. In sports, they preach to be mentally tough. And that often in a lot of ways is meant to be regarded on the field or in the court or between the lines. But a lot of athletes take that with them off the field. So As athletes are expected to be tough guys, not only by themselves, but to society, it weighs on them. And not until recently did athletes start really bringing up this issue. And so, a lot of times fans forget this because athletes are their main source of entertainment. They love watching sports and they expect these athletes to be robots. Well, athletes are human beings. And they also go through stuff. Just because they're rich, just because they're successful, doesn't mean they don't have personal demons or aren't battling something away from the court. Recently, around the end of last season, Kevin Love opened up about his battles, which led to a lot of other athletes opening up about their battles. Heads Up 22 is an organization. Heads Up Guys is an organization. It is about male athletes and speaking on depression for men and mental health for men. Some of the best athletes in the world have dealt with this. Kevin Love's an all-pro, all-NBA basketball player, and like 8 or 9 time All-Star. DeMar DeRozan, same way. Michael Phelps is the greatest Olympian of all time, and he battles depression every day, and it's been a common thing. He was one of the first athletes to talk about it. Terry Bradshaw, an older guy, a guy who comes from that era of football players are tough and football players are robots. They are there to play the game and win the game. It doesn't matter how your body feels. If you can run down the field, you can go. And that's where Terry Bradshaw came from. Terry Bradshaw tore an elbow ligament and played out a season, and every single throw killed him. Terry Bradshaw battled depression. Michael Phelps battles depression. DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love battle anxiety and depression. These are very, very real things, and mental health is a very important aspect of life. Looking up stats, among recently, you've had suicides in sports. You had Ryan Holinsky at Washington State battling stuff, and it's something that has sort of been overlooked, but in the NCAA, a major cause of suicide is the pressures they deal with in athletics. Depression. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the guy who's talked about it. The biggest thing they want to say is you're not alone. And to look at Heads Up Guys' take action, there are a lot of injuries, man. There are a lot. With CTE and other things, depression's common. Anxieties, depression, mental health stuff are common in football players post-retirement. It's tough. Junior Seau committed suicide. He had CTE symptoms in his brain. Depression can be treated, but depression is a battle like addiction that takes place every single day. Heads Up Guy says step 1, self-check, and you can do it on this website. Step 2, consult a doctor. Doctors can evaluate symptoms and rule out other possible causes. Depending on your symptoms, a doctor can help connect you to other resources and treatment options like talk therapy, support groups, or if appropriate, medication. Step 3, the basics. Depression can affect your sleep, diet, and energy levels, among other areas of your life. There are a number of things that you can start on your own to improve your functioning. Sleep, stress management, food, social life, physical activity, and sex and relationships. With depression, it can be hard to keep up with most of those daily tasks, but when you organize those 6 sections of your life, it allows you to take steps and be better. Step 4, build supports. And that starts with being open letting people know you're not feeling right, and finding friends, being close to your friends and family, and not being scared to reveal yourself to other people. It's hard. It's really hard to say, hey, bro, like, I haven't been feeling great, And, a lot of people battle these things alone, and that's just the one thing I think Heads Up guys and I think athletes are saying is, like, you don't have to be alone with it. And to do that, and I think the athletes coming out and saying it, these invincible figures, these guys on TV, it shows that athletes are human like the people watching them. And fans who are going through this stuff are like, Kevin Love's a guy, he's got all this stuff, and if he's going through it, I mean, I'm going through it too, and I think it shows a connection between players and fans, and I think seeing the comments that people left under Kevin Love's Players Tribune article about mental health, I think you can see that so many people responded positively towards it, and I think that's one of the ways to eliminate the stigma is, number one, realizing that it's a real problem, and number two, doing all you can to help people and be open to people who are dealing with this stuff, because everyone's got their demons and everyone's going through something, and I think at the end of the day, you need to know you're not alone in this battle. And I really do want to shout out Heads Up guys, because depression in sports and in men is a very common thing that goes unnoticed and unpracticed, and it leads to some very sad ends of stories. And not saying those can all be prevented, but you can take steps to help prevent stories like some of the ones we've heard recently. And I think that is where I want to go with this fan topic, is to fight the stigma against mental health and mental illness. I think these two things are both things that affect way more people than people even think, and I think at the end of the day, you should be able to feel comfortable saying these things to your friends, to your families, to your parents, to your doctors. It's okay to seek help, and it's okay to seek treatment for these things, because at the end of the day, it's your life, and at the end of the day, everyone around you should want you to be your best self. And that comes with it. And mental health in sports is just one part of it. And I think, and it makes me proud to be a fan of the Cavaliers with a player like Kevin Love trying to get out in the forefront and change the stigma on this thing. So that's awesome. And so now I'm going to conclude the show and go back. The NFL is wide open again. College football is going to be wild the last 3 weeks. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Renne. Follow me on Instagram at ChrisRenne5. Follow nbsp on both Twitter and Instagram for all things this show. Last but not least, Beard Eye is a real game, and it is a great game. Go Browns, go Bucks, and fight the stigma of mental health. This is your host, Christopher Renne, closing out today's episode.